Welcome, learners, to another deep dive. Have you ever found yourself dropped into a place where the social rules are so incredibly complex, your identity could literally dictate your freedom?
Or imagine a city where, the most glittering ballrooms mask these really brutal realities, and a single murder threatens to just unravel the whole intricate, often contradictory fabric of society.
That's the fascinating, dangerous world we're stepping into today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our deep dive centers on Barbara Hambly's captivating novel, A Free Man of Color. It plunges us right into New Orleans in 1833. In the thick of Carnival.
hmm
And our mission really is to pull out the truly surprising nuggets of truth about this unique historical period, dissect the shocking realities hidden beneath the surface.
Yeah, the opulence and the danger side by side.
Exactly. And explore a mystery that challenges perceptions at every single turn. So diving into this vibrant setting, what immediately struck you about New Orleans in 1833, especially during Carnival?
Well, it's just this sensory overload, isn't it? The
Yeah.
novel paints this incredible picture. You've got muddy streets, absolutely packed with revelers,
Right.
white, black, mixed heritage, slave-free, French, American, just everyone, and everyone bedizened. That means, showily adorned in every imaginable costume.
Like historical figures, literary characters,
Yeah.
Ivanhoe's and Rebecca, as it mentions.
Exactly, a real chaotic energy.
And it's a city very much alive, despite some truly horrific recent history.
Oh, absolutely. We learned that just the summer before, New Orleans had been devastated. A double epidemic, yellow fever and Asiatic cholera. Worse than any before, apparently.
Wow.
Yet, true to that sort of Creole spirit the book describes, they seem to celebrate victory rather than mourn loss.
But that revelry beneath the surface,
hmm
it must have been just a crucible of tensions.
Definitely. The novel makes it pretty clear this vibrant celebration often served as a mask, hiding these deeply embedded social anxieties, power struggles.
And a lot of this plays out in one key location.
Yes, the Grand Salle d'Orléans. Especially during the Blue Ribbon Ball. That's sort of ground zero for the story.
Right, you can almost picture it, can't you? The colored lanterns, jeweling the trees in the court, that long gallery overlooking everything.
Beautiful descriptions.
Mhm.
A place of almost dreamlike beauty.
But also where the dark heart of our story really begins to beat.
And this is where things get truly complex and, frankly, quite disturbing.
Okay.
New Orleans in the 1830s didn't just have social norms like we think of them. It operated under this unique unwritten code, often called the custom of the country.
The custom of the country. And this wasn't just about, like, which fork to use.
Not at all. It literally dictated life, liberty, social standing, everything.
And the novel really highlights this. For instance, it says, white Creoles had their own incredibly intricate social hierarchy. Specific words just to categorize each other based on family prominence.
How long they'd been there, who was who.
And then the Americans arriving.
Yeah.
Well, they just did not count in this established pecking order.
Which sets up this major cultural clash right from the start.
Yeah, you can feel that friction.
That clash is fundamental to understanding this period. And central to this custom were the quadroon balls,
Ah, yes, the quadroon ball.
places where wealthy white planters, merchants, bankers would find, they'd find free women of color, often described as mulatto or quadroon,
Based on ancestry.
right, to become their placés, which essentially meant their mistresses, but in a very formalized, recognized way within that society.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How these relationships, while clearly exploitative,
Deeply exploited.
still offered a degree of, financial security and a certain social standing to these free women of color and their daughters.
It's a strange paradox. The story introduces us to Angelique Crozat, a free woman of color and a placé. She's described as beautiful, fair-skinned.
But also quite fiery.
Oh, yeah. Temper tantrums, spitting on priests, ripping expensive gowns, throwing diamond bracelets out of carriages. She had this sparkle of her conversation like bright acid.
Wow, quite a character.
A truly memorable character, yes. Yet, even someone as spirited as Angelique was totally constrained by these strict social conventions.
Right.
A free placé of color occupied this curiously nuanced class, as the book puts it, constantly navigating a society that often viewed them as no better than their slave bastards, especially in the eyes of the arriving Americans.
So it wasn't just exploitation, it was this deeply ingrained system.
A formal system, exactly. Offering a kind of perverse security, maybe, but cementing racial and gender hierarchies at the same time.
And that American influence you mentioned. That's a huge threat, isn't it?
Huge. They're often portrayed as, crude, like the tobacco-chewing flatboat man or the riffraff on the police force.
Seen as having no understanding of culture, of civilization.
Where even their dueling customs were seen as barbaric. Americans mostly shoot to kill, whereas the Creole tradition was first blood.
It really highlights the depth of that cultural divide.
And this clash reveals varying degrees of, well, dehumanization under slavery and racial prejudice. The novel is pretty clear that Americans, for example, would simply make concubines of the best-looking of their slaves and then sold them off or sent them back to the fields when their allure faded, just treated as property, disposable.
Which contrasts sharply with the Placage system.
Sharply. I mean, Placage was still deeply exploitative, let's be clear. But the American approach often stripped individuals of even that limited, precarious status offered by Creole customs. It led to a much more arbitrary, brutal existence for enslaved women.
And even for free black individuals, the danger was constant. Despite a free man of color, the threat of re-enslavement was always there.
Always looming. There's that stark warning from an official at the docks to our protagonist, Benjamin January.
What does he say?
Something like, you might want to get yourself papers, boy. There's enough cheats and scum in this city who'd pounce on a likely-looking boy, and you'd find yourself picking cotton and matches.
Chilling. Just like that.
It's terrifying. That constant anxiety, that dread, that profound helplessness. The novel says it was the underpinning of those days.
Just woven into the fabric of life.
Absolutely. Even rented-out slaves who had some autonomy were under constant scrutiny. They could face brutal punishments, like 25 lashes for something as vague as impudence.
It really makes you question what freedom even meant in that context.
Exactly, when it could be torn away so easily.
And alongside all this, we also get these fascinating glimpses into the world of voodoo.
Yes. Marie Laveau, famously described as the queen.
A powerful voodoo yen.
Definitely. The book shows she knows about healing juju like protective charms, a red flannel bag with a black cat bone.
And also bad grick-erase.
Right, malevolent spells, symbolized by things like a dried bat, a death sign.
That adds such a rich, complex layer to the social landscape, doesn't it?
It really does. It reveals these powerful underground belief systems and networks, especially within the Black community.
Kind of existing in parallel or contrast to the dominant Catholic traditions.
Exactly. And voodoo in this context, it isn't just portrayed as superstition. It becomes this alternative source of power, of knowledge, maybe even resistance for people dispossessed by the main society.
So let's talk about the man at the center of it all. Benjamin January. What for you makes him such an extraordinary figure for this time and place?
He's truly remarkable. I mean, just the basics. A free man of color, described as unusually dark-skinned for a free man, tall and incredibly educated.
And a musician.
A virtuoso pianist, trained in Paris. He plays Rossini and Mozart effortlessly. But, and this is key, he also intimately understands the deep, dark, wailing music of the African lands from his childhood on a plantation.
So that musical fluidity sort of mirrors his life.
Perfectly. It reflects his constant navigation of these different, often conflicting worlds.
But there's another incredible layer to him, isn't there? Something that really sets him apart.
Oh, yes. This is maybe the most surprising thing. He's also a Paris-trained surgeon from the Hôtel Dieu.
Hôtel Dieu in Paris, one of the most famous hospitals in Europe.
The very same. Imagine that level of medical education for a free man of color in the 1830s. It's astonishing.
But he can't practice in New Orleans.
No. The racial prejudice is just too strong. His mentor in Paris, a Monsieur Gomez, wisely advised him to focus on music. Because even in Europe, Gomez warned him, they'll still look at you and say, he's an African.
Wow. So that creates this profound internal conflict for him.
Absolutely. He's experienced life outside the rigid racial constraints of the American South. He's seen Paris. He's highly skilled.
But he has to come back to a place where he can't even walk in the streets without a white man's permission to do so.
Exactly. He's constantly, as the book says, playing along, falling back into the old double role of manipulating a white man's illusions.
That sounds exhausting, a heavy burden.
It must have been, yet it's also where his family is, his mother, his sister. And he eventually has this realization.
What's that?
He thinks, it's here that I belong. Not Europe, not Paris, not Africa. Here among these no longer Africans, not really French.
That's a powerful statement about finding your place,
Yeah.
even in a deeply flawed home.
It really is. It speaks volumes about the complex identities forged in that New Orleans melting pot, a blend of cultures, but always shadowed by the brutal realities of race and power.
And It's into this incredibly complex world that the story immediately throws us with a murder.
Right away. Benjamin Januaries is playing piano at that blue ribbon ball we
At
mentioned.
the Sao d'Orléans.
Yes. And he encounters Madeleine Trepigier. She's a white woman, a former piano student of his.
And she's in costume.
Yes, a striking, maybe ironically themed buckskin costume, a Mohican princess. And she's visibly terrified.
Why?
She's just been accosted, frightened by a man in a Cardinal Richelieu costume.
Okay. And Madeleine is a widow, right?
A recent widow.
Yeah.
And her mere presence at a quadroon ball, even masked, is a shocking breach of the custom of the country.
Just being there is dangerous for her.
Extremely dangerous. January understands immediately. If her identity were revealed, she would never be received anywhere in the parish, anywhere in the state again. Her reputation would be ruined.
So her desperation to keep her presence secret is palpable.
Very much so. And she's there specifically to see Angelique Crozat, the notorious placé we talked about earlier.
Okay.
And then the chilling discovery. Angelique is found strangled in a side parlor.
The beautiful, fiery placé.
Now described as a beautiful, exotic relic, showing the brutal signs of murder. The bluish skin, the swollen tongue.
What a horrifying contrast. The vibrant party outside, this grim discovery inside.
It couldn't be starker. And it immediately throws that fragile social order into complete disarray.
So the police get involved.
Yes, the investigation falls to Lieutenant Abishag Shaw. He's an American, a Kantuk, a Kentuckian with a flatboat man's twangy drawl, but also, importantly, a woodsman's cold intelligence.
Also, maybe underestimated.
Perhaps, but he immediately reveals his bias. Froissart, the ball manager, even notes that Angelique is only a placé, sort of suggesting her death might be easily dismissed or blamed on her lifestyle.
Which puts Benjamin January in a terrible position, doesn't
A
it?
terrifying position. Shaw initially suspects him. Why? Because he was likely the last person to see Miss Crozat alive, having spoken with Madeleine just before.
And even though his testimony might technically be allowed.
Right. The novel points out that while the testimony of a free man of color was still good in the courts of New Orleans, it quickly adds that courts do frown on it. Should a colored man kill a white?
Even though Angelique wasn't white.
Exactly. But the power dynamics are clear. It highlights just how precarious Benjamin's freedom, his very life, truly is. Any accusation could be devastating.
And there's pressure from powerful families, too.
Immense pressure. You have the Crozats. Angelique's father, Etienne Crozat, was a major broker connected to half the planters on the river. And the Peraltas, their son, Galen, was apparently obsessed with Angelique. These powerful white families want the blame placed somewhere convenient.
Preferably on a black man.
That seems to be the implication. Someone easily disposable in their eyes.
And then there's the voodoo element again, right? The gris-gris charm.
Yes. That discovery really muddies the waters. A gris-gris charm, specifically a dried bat, is found in Angelique's mattress.
A death sign, according to voodoo belief.
Exactly. And Angelique's mother, Euphrasie Drews, she hysterically claims that woman, meaning Madeleine Trepigier, used witchcraft to murder her daughter.
And she implicates a slave woman, too.
Yes, a woman named Judith. This plays right into local superstitions about voodoo and witchcraft. It seems like a deliberate attempt to deflect from the real motive, whatever that might be.
It's a brilliant way to show how easily prejudice and superstition could be weaponized in that society.
Absolutely. Twisting fear and belief to manipulate the truth.
So the investigation is underway. It's full of biases, misdirections, voodoo accusations. What was the critical turning point? The aha moment for Benjamin that revealed the true nature of the crime.
It's a really clever piece of detection on his part. He remembers details from the chaotic scene. He realizes that Angelique, when she was found dead, was actually wearing Madeleine Trepigier's distinctive white dress and her necklace of emeralds and pearls.
The costume Madeleine was supposed to be wearing.
Well, the dress she wore under her Mohican princess costume, Angelique had borrowed it, and Benjamin puts it together with chilling clarity, he thinks. They killed the wrong woman.
Wow. So the target wasn't Angelique at all.
No, the true target was Madeleine Trepigier herself.
Which completely shifts the motive then.
Right.
Why would someone want Madeleine dead?
Purely financial reasons, it turns out. Her deceased husband, Arnaud Trepigier, who was also Angelique's former protector, adding another layer of complication.
Okay.
He wasn't a good planter. He left behind 3 mortgages and mostly owned undesirable swampland.
Not exactly a fortune.
Far from it. But his brother, Claude Trepigier, stood to inherit everything if Madeleine was out of the way. And Claude was deeply involved in plans for a new streetcar line, which made that swampland suddenly valuable.
Ah, so it's about land speculation and inheritance. Classic motives.
Classic, but deadly. And who provided the crucial inside information? The details about Madeline's presence at the ball, maybe even her costume?
Let me guess. Someone close to the family.
Sally, a runaway slave from the Trepagier plantation. It seems she had a high-toned boyfriend, likely a man named McGinty, who was a broker working with Claude Trepagier.
So Sally provided the intel. What happened to her?
Tragically, her body is later found in Bayou Gentilly, a devastating casualty of this whole scheme. Her voice, her side of the story, completely silenced.
It just underlines the extreme vulnerability of enslaved people, even when they seem to be acting with some agency.
Absolutely. Pawns in a dangerous game played by others.
So the plot unravels. The target is identified. How does it all come to a head?
It culminates in this incredibly tense, dramatic ambush at La Salle, the Trepagier plantation.
Benjamin goes there.
Yes. He finds himself, somewhat unexpectedly, confronting Claude Trepagier and his hired thugs, including a particularly dangerous man named Nahum Chagru, alongside the fencing master Augustus Merling and his sister Dominique.
So it turns violent.
Extremely violent. It's described as a brutal, chaotic firefight. In the end, Claude Trepagier and Nahum Chagru are killed.
And Benjamin, he's a musician, a surgeon. Does he get involved in the fighting?
He does. Despite his background as a healer and his clear aversion to violence shown earlier, he's forced to use a shotgun to defend Madeline. It's portrayed as this powerful moment of absolute necessity overriding his deeply held principles.
Survival instinct kicking in.
Exactly.
And even after all that, after surviving this ambush, proving Madeline was the target, the custom of the country still casts its shadow, right?
Oh, absolutely. Lieutenant Shaw arrives on the scene. He's pragmatic. He acknowledges the shooting, saying something like it was mighty pretty shooting.
Backhanded compliment.
Right. But he immediately pivots to how it will look in court. He warns Dominique, Benjamin's sister, courts do frown on it. Should a colored man kill a white?
Even in clear self-defense.
Even then, it just hammers home that constant tightrope walk for people of color. Even justifiable actions are filtered through the pervasive lens of racial prejudice. Self-defense could still be criminalized.
It's a stark reminder. So what happens to Madeline in the end?
She survives, obviously.
Yeah.
She sells the problematic plantation property, invests the money wisely.
Good for her.
And in a truly remarkable move, she buys back Judith, her former slave, who was implicated in the voodoo plot.
Buys her back, not frees her.
Buys her back, and she explicitly says it's the custom of the country. She also finds an unexpected romance with Augustus Merling, the fencing master.
That decision to buy Judith back, it seems complex. What do you make of that? It feels like kindness, but does it really challenge the system?
That's a great question, and it's deliberately ambiguous, I think. On the surface, yes, it appears kind. It's a significant personal investment, maybe a way of making amends or taking responsibility. But as you said, it also reinforces her Creole identity and the existing power structure. She doesn't free Judith in the way we might think of liberation today. She buys her, bringing her back into a familiar hierarchy, even if Madeline intends to be a kinder mistress.
So it highlights how deeply ingrained that custom of the country was.
Exactly, even for someone who nearly died because of the schemes rooted in that very system. It shows the powerful inertia of social structures, the limits of individual actions against a systemic injustice.
This deep dive into a free man of color really offers such a rich, complex portrait of New Orleans, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A city that's both incredibly alluring and incredibly dangerous. A place where identity, freedom, justice, they were constantly being negotiated, often at lethal cost.
And Benjamin January, our extraordinary protagonist, despite facing just relentless systemic prejudice and profound personal loss, he navigates this world with such intellect and courage.
Always striving for truth, for justice, even when it puts his own precarious freedom, his own life at risk.
And his journey leads him to that profound realization we mentioned, that even with all its injustices, it's here that I belong. Not Europe, not Paris, not Africa.
Right. New Orleans, with all its tangled beauty and its inherent inequities, is his home.
It really is.
And it leaves us with a pretty important question, I think, building on January's experience. In a world where freedom itself could be as fragile as, a piece of paper easily torn up, what does it truly mean to find your home and to fight for what's right, even when the entire custom of the country seems designed to tell you otherwise?